Hi there, everybody. My name's CorundumCore, and this is FIA All Songs.
My name's
So,
Fluff27, and I'll be commentating a little.
yeah, I'm excited. So, atmospheric platformer developed by Swedish developers, and a team of the game's inner world around you through song. And our main character, Fia, is very good about that because she has the ability to mimic the voices of other creatures in her world. So, as we progress through the game, we're going to learn more songs to mimic. We're going to interact with more creatures and do more good in the world. But before we do any of that, we've got to collect some crystals. And we're going to be moving over to the left here in just a second. Oh, I completely forgot to give you a countdown. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Uh,
heck. That's fine. I forgot to start the timer.
we're a couple seconds behind then. That's perfectly fine. All right, so that jump that I just did was literally the hardest jump in the run,
I,
um,
I could
and we got it
confirm.
first try.
I spent like a full 30 minutes learning just that jump. It is very tricky. There's lots of weird
So,
fiddly collision at various edges of the map and like certain rocks that you can jump on or not jump on, and we use that in a whole bunch of places to skip different sections. And it can be pretty precise.
that's right. So this game has a map where you double back on yourself a lot. So if you can do very precise jumps to get crystals early, it saves you a lot of time. So this is an example of us interacting with the world around us through song. That's a forest keeper, which is a singing flower, and we match pitch with it, hold it for a few seconds, and then become best friends, and it raises these flower platforms for us. We're supposed to do the same thing with this baby deer up here, but that's really slow, so we're going to do a thing called baby deer skip, which is another pretty difficult jump. So you're not going to be able to see it because I'm moving around, but these trees are always slightly moving, which means the collision of the branches is always slightly moving. So we're going to try and have to platform on collision that is constantly ever so slightly moving, and we got it second try. That's pretty good. Now we've got to do a double jump on a corner, so double jumps aren't normally a thing. This is called a ghetto jump, named after the ghetto jumps in Metroid Prime. Got that like third or fourth try. That's pretty good. We're going to jump through this cutscene trigger so we can keep moving. And now we're at the hub area. So, you see this giant tree? We're going to give this giant tree one of the crystals that we've collected, and it's going to teach us how to climb trees so we never have to do that weird collision jumping thing from Baby Deer Skip ever again. So we're going to need to collect 3 more crystals, and then we'll be able to continue on with the main theme of the game of actually collecting songs or voices. So we just need to climb this tree and we'll be out of this little dream sequence. So we've got to collect this crystal right here, and then 2 more crystals that are going to be over to our right. 1 crystal we're not supposed to be able to get until we get the next ability, and the other we're not supposed to be able to get until post-game. So the reason why we're able to collect all of these crystals early is, as you can see, this game has a very geometric art style, and almost all of the triangles that you see in the modeling are also the triangles of collision. So that means that there's a lot of surfaces that are the right material and the right slope that we can just use as a platform, even if the developers didn't necessarily intend for us to use them that way. So this is a pretty difficult jump right here, and we're struggling with it a little bit, but that's okay. So while it allows us to do things early, which is really nice, because the developers never intended us to use these surfaces as platforms, it can be a little difficult for us to stay on them. But that's okay. One more crystal to go. Gonna try a tiny little skip, and we get it. Alright, come on. There we
This
go.
is the best part. You just get to sort of wiggle on the edge until you pop up.
Yeah. That's how you get up ledges, right? You just kind of wiggle at the ledge for a little bit?
Yep. Yeah, I use a much slower strategy. I can never seem to get the jump, so I just sort of wiggle up the collision until I make it to the top.
It's really nice when you can just make the jump cleanly, but that is rare.
Yeah.
Alright, so we've collected all of the crystals that we need, and so now we're getting the ability to glide. Gliding is super important for speedrunning this game because you get a slight boost of speed whenever you start a glide. And that's including even if you're just running along the ground and do a tiny little hop and glide. That's called glide boosting, and we're going to do that basically whenever we can. Unless we're running up a slope, then it ends up being a little slower. So now we're going to be going to the first, story thing, I guess is the best way to describe it. And that is the bird area. So I'll use the term songs and voices interchangeably, but basically what they are is that each species has a song, and we can use it to interact with that species and an associated plant species in the world. Oh, it's been a while since I've missed that jump. Ooh, this rock is being uncooperative today. There we go. So we're going to glide down here. That was close. And here are the main antagonists of the game. So these are called the silent ones. Like I said, the theme of this game is interacting with the world around you through song. Most of the creatures in this world play by those rules. Silent ones do not. Silent ones do not sing with other creatures, so instead they kind of just capture creatures and then either turn them into slaves or use them as energy sources. It's really bad. So that's why they're the bad guys. And unfortunately, this baby deer is going to demonstrate what happens when you get captured by a silent one. So we don't want that to happen to us. Don't worry, we're going to be able to free that little guy at the end of the run. So we're going to pair with this baby bird here. Baby birds are super useful during casual play because they kind of serve as a waypoint system. But we know where we're going, so the baby bird's secondary use is what we need, and that is that it opens green seed plants. So now's a good time to talk about the different levels of a species, is the best way to describe it. So babies of a species interact with plants associated with that species. That green seed plant that we just walked past is what the bird voice will open. So you can pair with the baby of any species without knowing the song of that species. And then adults of a species basically serve as an extra form of transportation, but you have to already know the voice of that species. And then the leader of a species gives you the voice of that species, but you have to complete a voice quest for them.
And
so
the
there
All
we
Songs
actually
category will be getting all of the voices of all of the species. And the leaders of the species will often call the mom or the god. Like that's Bird Mom over there.
Yeah, let's get a good look at Bird Mom.
Bird
Mom
Mom's
is
about
very
to dunk.
protective of her. Yes.
You just dunk it on silent ones.
So the silent ones are trying to capture Bird Mom right now so they can steal her eggs. So we're going to free Bird Mom. But unfortunately, the silent ones are still going to be able to grab her eggs. So we're going to get them back for her, and she'll give us the Song of the Voices, or Song of the Birds in return.
So the first egg just sort of stays right in front of her, and you put it right on the thing, and then the other 3 eggs get taken off by these silent ones that we have to chase down and sort of sneak by.
Mm-hmm. That's correct. And so the cycles of these silent ones are non-deterministic, so we're going to be hoping for the best with their movement. Going to pull this silent one over by singing. As long as you stay at the edge of their visual range, you most likely won't get captured. So we're going to wait for the silent one to drop the egg down onto the pedestal, jump up, break line of sight, and then go around this rock. Now we have this egg, and we're going to throw it back towards Bird Mom as soon as we get in range of throwing it to her. And that silent one was way further over to the right than I was expecting, so we're going to miss a cycle here. That's a little unfortunate. Alright, now we're good. So we're going to jump along the river here. And we're going to get up over to this ledge and then throw this egg at Bird Mom. Don't worry, the egg won't break. They're actually really bouncy, which can be a little bit of a problem when we're trying to do precise throws. We'll see how good of a throw that was in just a bit. Now we're going to glide down here while this silent one moves down here. Now this silent one is about to teach us a very important life lesson, and I'll point that out as soon as we get to it. So it's important to remember that we're not supposed to have the glide ability in this area yet, so that's what's allowing us to go so fast through this section, because we can not only glide boost, but just cover a lot more horizontal distance in the air than they're expecting us to.
You talked about glide boosting, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay, good.
So that's a bear. Don't walk into random caves because you might get eaten by a bear.
Don't mess with bears.
Yeah, that's true in real life, in addition to just this game. So, life lessons with Fia. Gonna throw this egg. That throw looked a little short, but we're good. Gonna throw this egg towards Bird Mom. Hopefully it's within the range where she can grab it. Perfect. Come on. Alright, now we're just waiting for her to pick up that last egg. Yep, she's got it. One more egg to go. And then we will have bird voice.
So here we're just waiting for another silent one, and there he comes to drop off this egg and then turn around and not notice us grab it.
This silent one's vision range is really weird. Sometimes he can just spot us from the back of his head.
He can smell you. He's got smell-o-vision. Works in all directions.
Or he's just a mom, because you know all moms have eyes in the backs of their heads.
That's very true, yeah.
So we throw that egg, trigger this cutscene. Now we're going to match pitch with Bird Mom. And now we have bird voice. So, in just a second, we're going to be seeing a very weird-looking adult bird. That's because we skipped freeing it earlier in the bird main quest, or song quest. And so it is still in the animation of being captured in the barrier of a silent one. And we didn't know what caused that for the longest time, but now we do. So we're going to jump along these trees. and make it back towards the hub area in order to go to the next voice, which is the deer voice. You've got to make this kind of precise jump right here. The timing of when you start a glide after jumping off of a tree is really important because you get varying amounts of horizontal and vertical distance throughout the length of the jump. So almost every time that I'm jumping off of a tree, I'm having to remember when I should actually start gliding. It's a little difficult when you start out running this game, but at this point, it's just muscle memory for me.
Yeah, I, who is just learning this game now, often will mess up and make the wrong one, and it makes getting to certain places a lot harder or more dangerous than it otherwise would be.
This game has some really deceptively difficult tech. Like, for a game that's so comfy in its atmosphere, it can be really brutal at some points to run.
Absolutely.
Oh.
Speaking
so,
of...
yeah, that deer just kind of blocked my view, and I thought I jumped onto the tree, and I just jumped to my death. Whoops. That was a little embarrassing, but we're okay. So this is that rock that we were having to jump at the edge of. Now that we have the glide ability, it's really easy to jump up here. So, to our right, we're going to see a very big deer. We call him Deer God because, dear God, that's a big deer. He's the leader of the deers, and he's going to give us deer voice. Currently, he's being captured by some silent ones. How are the silent ones capturing him? Well, they have captured some forest keepers and are turning them into energy sources for these big ol' stone obelisks that you can see. And those stone obelisks are shooting out those white tendrils that are ensnaring Deer God's legs. So, if we free the forest keepers, that powers down the stone obelisks and frees the legs of Deer God. So we have to free all 3 forest keepers, and then we can climb up Deer God's body. Yeah, that was really unfortunate.
Too bad. So you sort of smash your face up against the wall while you're falling, because you'll sort of fall down. It's a very steep slope, and because you're falling down a slope, you don't go into like a fast fall state. Normally when that happens, there's like a landing animation, and as a result, the green eggs, if you're carrying one, will smash on the ground when you hit it. And unfortunately, he just wasn't quite up against the wall well enough, so now he's got to go grab this egg, and this silent one's being kind of a jerk.
Yeah, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. Normally, you only need to be sliding against the wall for about half second at most, but I guess my timing was just the tiniest bit off. It's okay. We only lose a little bit of time to that. So, this is the second forest keeper. So, the third one is going to be super important because there is a very major skip. As soon as we throw the green seed for the final forest keeper, we're basically on the clock for a thing called climb skip. So normally we're supposed to glide to Deer God's legs because that's the only thing that we can reach, and then climb up Deer God's body because he's got trees all along his body. If you have very specific timing, you can grab onto a much higher up tree when Deer God does an animation of kind of like jumping up and then stepping back down. But it is such a tight window that if I miss one input, or if this controller that is not the best controller that I have eats an input, then we're going to miss the trick. So fingers crossed that we actually get it.
There's really no shame in missing this. It's very hard.
I would like to be using my PS4 controller, but for some reason it messes with the audio on my computer, so I'm having to use my slightly worse Xbox One controller.
Oh, yeah. DualShock controllers are just weird. They have all sorts of weird stuff. I use one for Super Metroid.
Alright, so gotta line up this throw, fingers crossed. Alright, we're looking good so far. Oh, we just barely got it. Awesome.
Normally you end up kind of landing on one of the back legs and have to climb all across Dear God's body.
But instead we get a really nice jump. And now we just jump along these trees on the back of his neck. Enter the cutscene. And now we get Deer Voice.
It's a mouth on the forehead, can't unsee.
Oh man, I was going to point that out at the end of the run. You beat me to it.
You did it to me, but the other day I had to
That's
pass
true.
on the mind virus. Nice double jump, by the way.
Thank you. So, double jumps in midair are like a 1 or 2 frame trick. We're not entirely sure on the timing, but it's theorized that if we can get the timing consistent, we can beat the game just by double jumping all the way to the final area. So I'm tempted to make a task attempting that. So now we're on our way to the lizard area. If you've played through this game casually, this is going to probably look the most different from your casual playthrough, because normally to get to the lizard area, we're supposed to go through an area called the marsh. We're also supposed to go through the marsh on our way out of the lizard area. But instead of going to the left like we're supposed to, we're just going to glide off into the distance. For some reason, there's no kill plane or anything like that. And we're going to glide all the way to a post-game area, and it just so happens that this post-game area kind of backs up to the back of the lizard area, so we're going to just glide over to the back of the lizard area from here.
This skip is really cool, but if you mess it up and fall at a bad point, you fall into the marsh, and then you lose so many minutes having to like climb back out.
Well, that's
I
marsh
know because
two
it happened
skip.
to me. Oh, never mind. I'm silly.
It's okay.
It'll
Yeah,
happen
if we
later.
fall here, if we fall here, we just we have fish death. And I'll explain what fish death is. I mean, it's not really complicated. You die to a giant fish if you stay in the water too long. There are only certain times where we want fish death. So, to get the lizard voice, kind of the same deal. We've got to free these forest keepers that are powering these teleportation pads. These teleportation pads are blocking the pathway for the baby lizards, canonically called Lizzie Boys, to get to their parents.
The Lizzie Boys are so good. They're so good.
They're so adorable.
Cute.
So we're just going to fly up these golden orchids. And we're going for a tiny little skip here. Oof, just barely got it. There's a Lizzie boy right there. And it just jumped right into a teleportation pad. So we're going to stop them from doing that. But first we have to break our own rule that we previously made. We're going to go into a cave, and we're going to interact with some bear cubs. So these bear cubs' voices can break the silent barriers, which is important because there are no green seeds in this area for us to use as we normally would. So we're going to just run along this area with the bear cubs, and they are going to open this up for us. They can be a little bit temperamental. Sometimes they just decide, nope, I'm done here, and they run back to the main area where we first met them. So I'm going to be tapping the singing button just to make sure they kind of stay close.
I always thought that
also helps if we can...
The little symbol they
Go
make
ahead.
when they shout looks a lot like the Horde symbol from World of Warcraft to me. Just want to mention that.
I haven't been paying attention to it.
Yeah, you can
Oh
take
yeah,
a
it kind of
look.
does, doesn't it?
Yeah, at a glance.
So that's 2 down, 1 to go. I love these little animations. Look at those cute little Lizzie boys.
Look at them. They're so cute. They're so fat. I love them so much.
So we're doing a minor skip right here, saves about 7 seconds, skipping having to run across a land bridge. Gonna make this throw right here and grab this Lizzie boy. Oh, ha! He tried to run away.
Devil.
Use him to bounce up here. Now, because Lizzie boys can be a little bit temperamental like that, we're going to skip, freeing, I think, 3 lizard flowers right there. Doing this thing called Ice Slide Skip. Missed it right there, but that's okay. We can try it again right here. Oh, man, this rock is being really temperamental. There we go. But unfortunately, the Lizzie boys can't follow us up here, so we have to take an intentional death in the water.
This is where
And
we get
then
to
as soon
Shark
as
Friend.
Yes. And when we respawn up top, the Lizzie boys will be next to us. Gonna try a little bit of a skip here. Hey, we got it.
Nice.
Normally I don't try that in marathons, but I was feeling good. Alright, so this trick is really interesting. As long as we continue to be in the air during a cutscene, we won't have to stand still like we normally would during any of these cutscenes.
Yeah, so you can see
it
the
doesn't
camera.
lock our movement.
You can see the camera bobbing slightly during that cutscene, and that's because we're still doing the air glides. Oh god, no. Don't get sharked.
We're good. We're good.
Nice, nice. So during that cutscene, you can just keep air gliding down towards Lizard Mom and save some time. Although you have to do it totally blind, so if you don't line it up right, you just fall in the water and get sharked.
Luckily, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So now we have Lizard Voice, and now's the part we're doing Marsh 2.
This is the part that if you fall, you lose a whole bunch of minutes trying to climb back out. I jumped the gun earlier.
Optimally, this trick saves 4 minutes. So if you go through the section that this skips perfectly, you're still 4 minutes slower than if you had even just a mediocre time going through Marsh 2 skip. So it's a super skip. I actually discovered it in the practice room of SGDQ 2018 and got world record by 1 second with it. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of go up the same direction that we went before to get the second forest keeper with the bear cubs. But we're going to bounce up these flowers instead and glide over here. Oh. That's surprising. We're getting a couple frame drops. That's not from the stream. That's actually from the game. So if you quit a file and reload it enough times, the game starts introducing lag. And I quit the client to try and prevent that, but for whatever reason, it seems like we're getting some frame drops. So this is the Marsh 2 skip right there, was that little jump across the rocks that we did. Normally there's an invisible wall that pushes you down from going through the hole in the wall, but we discovered that little section in the rocks that you can just jump up instead of getting pushed down or sliding down. And so now we are above the marsh area. Going through the marsh area the second time is supposed to teach us about the wolves. Canonically, they're called wharfs, but that just makes me think of Star Trek or boats, so I call them wolves. Wolves, or some wolves, have been captured by Silent Ones and turned into dogs, and dogs can capture you just like Silent Ones can. So we're supposed to be learning how to free the wolves that are in the... It's basically like a power armor for the dogs. Oh, that was almost really bad.
Yeah, oh my god.
That frame drop was at the worst possible second, but we managed to save it. If we had fallen there, we would have had to go through the underground cave that we waste 4 minutes in. So that's really good that we didn't miss that.
Ooh, boy. Luckily, Corundum knows the map of this game very, very well and would be able to navigate out. It just wastes a bunch of time.
Oh, I've played this game at least 3 times a week since it came out in February. I am very well versed in this game. I really enjoy this game. I mean, it's easy to see why. It's just such a comfortable, like, relaxing atmosphere. The music is fantastic. All of it is just so good, and the fact that it's also an enjoyable speed game just makes it really, really fun to run.
Every single frame of this game would make a beautiful desktop wallpaper. Literally every frame. Even the loading frames.
Even the loading frames. Have we seen any? Yeah, we saw a loading frame at the beginning.
Yeah.
I forget because the all abilities category, you actually have to quit out of the file and then reload it, because otherwise we kind of get into areas that we can't progress from, and we use spawn points to avoid soft locking. So you see the loading screen a lot more. So this is Ice Mountain, or Wolf Mountain, that we are climbing up right now. We're supposed to interact with some dogs and free them in order to progress through this area, but instead we're going to do a couple skips. So the things that we're skipping are the plants that are associated with the wolf voice, which are these blue mushroom walls. So what we're supposed to do is free the dogs and turn them into wolves, and they open the blue mushroom doors for us, but instead we can just do some precise jumps, or in this case, just climb up the side of an ice slide that they forgot to add sliding, the sliding property to, and just make our way up here and avoid all of those dogs. And now we're at the most RNG part of the run, which is Wolf Cave.
So there are
So like I said,
wolves down in the cave, and then there are 4, you focus, there are 4 light up sort of diamond shaped gates that we need to get. So each wolf has a glowing ball on their tail, which we'll grab, and then they'll flail around, and then we will have the glowy ball, and then we can throw it at the diamonds to activate the gates. Pretty simple. The problem is the wolf patterns are all super random, and these were some not good patterns because there were no wolves right at the beginning. And like if you mess up, you have to wait for more wolves to spawn.
Oh no! Oh, I gotta be careful.
Ooh.
I tried it. Oh, that's so unfortunate.
Yeah.
That was a max range capture. Oh well.
Well, hopefully now they'll be in better positions and everything will be fine.
Oh, they won't. Look at them running away.
No! Also, after grabbing the pearl for the wolf tails, like, there's all sorts of weird stuff that can happen with the pearls, involving, like, throwing them or not throwing them.
This is all terrible.
You're gonna be alright. You're gonna be alright.
Wow, this is hilariously bad RNG here. Hilariously bad patterns from the wolves. Or dogs, sorry. My brain is mush right now trying to focus on this.
You focus, don't worry. So here you have one of the pearls, get one of the gates. There's like a sort of general route that you can try to take through this area, but that's pretty much completely caught out the window at this point. The general route is like works most of the time based on wolf patterns, but if you get particularly weird or bad patterns like these, it's just like, well, you know. Also, in addition to being able to capture you, the wolves can also smell you, even if you're hiding in bushes. Normally you can hide in bushes to get away from the silent ones, but the wolves can just smell you out. They actually have
Normally they are not this perceptive, though. Like, this is a little bit ridiculous at this point.
Yeah.
So, in addition to all of the already difficult parts of this run, there's also a couple really annoying glitches. I don't know if you mentioned this, but sometimes when you,
but not in detail.
Sometimes when you fall, or when you're in the animation of falling after grabbing the white orbs from the tails of the dogs, the orb will just break on contact with the floor, and then you have to wait for another dog to spawn. All right,
Also,
I'm gonna
sometimes the orbs will
skip.
like despawn or break in other weird ways. There's like a bunch of ways that orbs can do weird stuff. But hopefully none of that will happen today and everything will be fine.
Okay, these dogs are being super uncooperative right now. We've wasted about 2 minutes in here.
Yeah, optimally this is quite quick, but they're being a little mean to us today.
Yeah. So, for reference, I'd say about 20% of the time I get a run that is on sub 55 pace, just because of everything else going on. And maybe even more than that. I'd say at this point, about 60% of the time, I'm on a run that is sub 55 pace. Coming out of Wolf Cave, that number drops to about 10%.
Yeah. It can be
All right.
a real run killer. There's a route that air dash is for all songs, right? I'm saying that right?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a route that is being worked on called air dash, where you can get the air dash ability super early. It's currently slower, but it's theorized that with some better crystal routing and stuff, it would be faster. So.
Mm-hmm. So instead of collecting,
air dash, you can skip Wolf Cave. So it's very promising. But we made it through.
Yeah, eventually. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, the air dash route, instead of collecting 5 crystals, we have to collect 30 crystals, and some of them you can only collect while you're doing the main quest already. So about half of the time that you spend is collecting crystals, and then the other half is just blazing through the rest of the area.
Yeah.
So if we can...
Air dash basically gives you a huge horizontal boost if you're in midair, so you can just fly past huge areas and get pretty much anywhere. It's supposed to be one of the later abilities you collect in the game.
It's also the only way that we know how to go out of bounds, which is required for completing the Wolf Cave skip.
Yes. Also, here
we were kind of talking over it.
Yeah. Here we're just pairing with some baby wolves. Because we need to take them back to Wolf Mom and learn the wolf voice. Also, the baby wolves are really, really cute.
They're so adorable.
They're just so round. I love them so much.
Alright, it's bedtime, babies. Come on. Off to your beds. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. And of course, there's always one straggler that doesn't want to go to bed. There we go. I know it's only 6:30, but it's your bedtime.
Be a good little pig and go to bed, okay?
That's right, you think they look like pigs.
I do think they look like pigs. I forget that not everybody sees the world how I do.
Alright, and now we have the wolf voice, and we need to go back to the hub area to get our final voice, which is, I call it jellyfish, because for the longest time we thought they looked like jellyfishes, but all of these canonical names that we're talking about are actually the result of a Twitter poll, and I believe Twitter decided on the name Bumpaloon.
It's so good.
It's a good name, but it's just hard to not say jellyfish when I'm so used to it. So we'll see some Bumpaloons in a bit. So this is going to be the first time that we actually pair with an adult of any species. I'm going to pair with this adult wolf, and like I said, they basically serve as a mode of transportation. And so we can just go faster while we're hitching a ride. I'm also only tapping the wolf voice because otherwise the wolf howl is a little grating. Here, I'll show you. So yeah, we just tap the button.
See, I just hold it down because I'm lazy.
So here we're going to learn a little bit more about the other fox children called the Fia. Because at the same time, even though our name is Fia. The achievements also refer to the other baby foxes as Fia, so that's a little weird. But we're supposed to be playing hide and seek with them right here, but spoiler alert, the silent ones are currently capturing... what in the heck was that? That was a weird animation where we just kind of got stuck on the tree. The silent ones are currently capturing the elder tree in the hub area, and if we play hide and seek with the other foxes, they will get captured. So that takes some time and that's slow. So in order to save some time and save our family, we're just going to ignore them and take this bird and glide over the forest keeper that we paired with at the beginning of the run. You might not be able to recognize it because we're going through so fast, but this is actually the kind of tutorial area from the beginning of the run, and this is why I said that that first crystal that we were supposed to grab, we're not supposed to be able to grab it until the end of the run. I'm assuming, I'm not looking at the timer right now, but I'm assuming we're about 42 minutes into the run.
We are 40 minutes in exactly.
We did not waste nearly as much time in Wolf Cave as I thought we did. That's good. Oh, what am I doing? I'm doing the all abilities route for a second. That's okay. So we're going to jump along this rock right here, skip over that ambush right there that I was talking about with the baby foxes. And so now we're going to interact with the adult forest keepers. So the adult forest keepers are kind of an exception to the rule in the fact that we can only pair with them sometimes, but we don't need the jellyfish voice in order to pair with them. And what they do is they will actually send out some bumpaloons, almost like a form of antibody for the elder tree. And those bumpaloons will capture the silent ones and whisk them away. We'll see that in a little bit when we stop moving, when we wait for the cutscene to start for learning the bumpaloon voice. Oh yeah, I'm leaving my splits to say jellyfish as well, but I still like the name Bumpaloon. It's really cute.
It's very good.
Also, say hello to Kimmy in the chat. Kimmy has been running this game basically since it came out. She's gone on a bit of a hiatus, but she was one of the OG runners for this game.
Hi, Kimmy.
Kimmy's also going to be on the couch with me at GDQ when I run this on the first night. So here are the Bumpaloons.
So you are reading chat, yes.
Yes, I am.
When we have
I'm just trying to focus. Alright, that is the 5th collected voice, and also the final voice that we have to collect. And so now we're going on to the final area. So story update, for some reason the silent ones are no longer paying attention to us or any other species, and that's a bit of a red flag, so we're going to follow them and try and figure out what they're doing. So now we're in the deer area, and shortly you'll be able to see a bunch of silent ones moving kind of towards the area that we skipped over to go to Lizard. They're all kind of going in that direction. Yes, Kimmy, we found so many skips since you since you stopped running this game. You could easily get a sub 1 hour time with just a couple practice runs. So doing all the tricks that I do is, like, admittedly pretty frustrating, but it's really not that difficult to get a hour and 15-minute time in this game. So if you're looking for a really comfortable speedrun that's just a little over an hour, I would definitely recommend FIA.
Yeah, and almost all of the difficult, risky stuff has safer or easier setups, which is what I do.
I like playing risky.
You've got the skills to prove it.
Oh, well, thank you. So, we are now heading to the final area. Did that kind of little jumping across the bumpaloons, hence the name. And so, I guess, story update, now the Silent Ones are paying attention to this floating rock, and for some reason we're going to help them make the rock float higher. So we're going to pair with these forest keepers. Well, Kimmy, I thought you were struggling with those jumps on PS4. They are a little bit more difficult on console, but if you run on PC, you should be able to get them no problem. That was almost a fall. Alright, this is the fourth and final Forest Keeper that we need to pair with. So, this is the broken Silent One. We call him Robot. And Robot is going to join us over here. Robot, can you help us out, please? We can't open these doors on our own, so we have to rely on Robot to open them for us.
Okay,
when you... Yeah.
You were saying a thing, and then I cut you off to be wholesome.
Oh. So, basically the final area is supposed to be a bit of a like collaborative effort between you and Robot, and you do all of these kind of like puzzling elements together, but in the speedrun it just kind of turns into an escort mission because we can do things way faster than Robot can, which is a little unfortunate because it means that we spend so much time just waiting on Robot to move. I'm also going for the riskier strat here, and I probably shouldn't have, but that's okay.
Nice.
Hey, we got it. Come on,
There's
Robot.
a lot of tricky platforming to do that route. And also, like, the big
Yes.
ring in the center starts spinning, so you have to, like, catch a certain cycle to make it in time.
Really, the most difficult part is jumping from the first Forest Keeper to the second. There's a bit of an invisible wall, so you're, like, it's really easy to slide off of that slope that I just kind of, like, skirted along the edge of. Luckily, I didn't fall, so we're good. So we've got one more rotating platform area, and then we're basically home free. Normally you're supposed to run around the back of this little platform area, but you can just do some pretty precise jumps and some gliding and get to these golden orchids a little early. And so now we're going to glide along this way.
God, the music is so pretty.
Oh yeah, I love just how the music swells at this point into this awesome, just the cellos and the violins in this section. Oh, This soundtrack is incredible. So I should mention that in the any percent category, we actually don't collect any voices. All we do is collect 30 crystals to get air dash, and then use air dashes to get to the final area. All of these things that we're doing, there's a way to skip around them or do them without doing any of these interactions with lizard flowers or any of the other plants. So it would be faster if we didn't have voices to do a couple skips where we don't go along these outer sections. But since we have the voices, we can just do things relatively quickly, the intended route. I'm trying to skip, I guess it's a cycle. Basically, we're trying to outrun Robot so that we can get to this specific little platform right here before Robot shows up. And if we timed that correctly, Robot will run over where he did instead of running kind of towards the tree and wasting about 10 seconds. So now we are we're basically gonna watch 3.5 minutes of cutscenes and then we're at the end of the run. But first, we've got to learn some big story realizations. So, oh no, we can't make it over to the final Forest Keeper. What are we going to do? The silent ones have been the adult foxes the whole time. What a surprise!
This is also the longest pair in the game, and it takes forever.
It takes so long, and it's so frustrating when you miss it.
But we are going to reteach the foxes their own song, and I think that's really beautiful.
Mm-hmm. So, the developers intentionally left the story open to interpretation, but the way that I interpret it is that the foxes became so technologically advanced that they kind of lost their connection with nature, but because Fia is still a child, she still has that connection with nature. And so at the end, in order to help the foxes complete whatever this goal is, Fia quite literally reteaches this fox and subsequently all of the other foxes how to communicate with nature. How to get back to their roots. So now all of these silent ones are just kind of gonna float up into space. And now we've got this really confusing sequence where we just kind of start tumbling and falling, but it's weird that they chose this for a cutscene because Fia can glide, and you can't get to this area without Fia being able to glide, so it's a little weird. So now the fox that we were calling Robot is going to set down its helmet. We've skipped all of the other memory sequences in the run, but this memory sequence right here is required to complete the game. So we grab that kind of ball of water, put it on our face, and now we have the memories of this fox, and we're kind of walking through them. Time is going to be coming up when I lose control of movement. We don't end timing on the credits because you technically don't have to trigger the credits after this. You can continue just moving around the world. It's entirely optional to trigger the credits, so we end timing right about here. I'll tell you when. And time. And so this memory sequence shows that the fox that was helping us complete the final area was actually Fia's parent. And that's via all songs.
So that was a time of 53:38, kind of.
Yeah, sorry about forgetting to
I
tell you to
stopped
start.
the timer at the right time, but started it late, so it's probably
That's
closer to
okay.
like a mid 54 or something.
Honestly, that's
Or
still a
more.
really good time. So my PB is a 49:15, which is 23 seconds off a world record. But I think the best time I've ever gotten in a marathon was a 52. So that's a pretty solid time. I'm happy with that time. So if we've got a little bit of time before the next run, I did make a promise that we were going to free a baby deer at the end of the run. So I'm going to do that really quick. And while we are kind of flying over on the back of this very kind bird, I'd just like to say thank you to everybody who's watching, participating in chat, donating. Take This is a really excellent organization, and I'm very happy that we at Speedruns Rochester are helping them help people with mental illnesses in the gaming community. Speaking of which, do you have any donations or things to say about Take This?
Why, yes, I do. What an excellent segue. So as Corundum said, Take This is a charity organization which seeks to inform the gaming community about mental health issues, provide education on different disorders and prevention techniques, and reduce the overall stigma around mental illness. They help in the gaming community suffering from mental illness by letting them know that they are not alone in their struggles and there are treatment options out there to help. It's a really good cause, and we would be really, really grateful if you could donate when possible. And I do have I have one donation I would like to read. I have a donation from Drunk Wario for $32.50. Make him good on his word. 11 zombie bites and 1 skateboard bonk bled me for a total of $32.50. Don't worry, Frank West didn't need any of that blood. And if I have a sec here, and I think I do, there is one donation incentive that I would like to shout out. It is the Plague Knight wins by doing absolutely nothing incentive for Shovel Knight Plague of Shadows. I think we're only $10 away from getting that met, and it's really funny. Just Plague Knight wins by doing absolutely nothing. It's like a couple minutes, and it would be really cool to see that met. That runs only a few runs away at around 8:30 tonight. It's also a really great run, so...
Yep, if you'd like to see any of those things, you can go ahead and type !donate in the chat, and you'll get a link to where you can donate. This has been Via All Songs. I've been CorundumCore. I'll see you all a little bit later tonight. Thanks so much for hanging out.
Thank you so much for running this.
No problem. See ya.